they be able to do it? All right, let's move to the Browns. Yesterday we had the news conference. We're going to talk a little bit later about the news conference. We all thought Jim Schwartz won the news conference.
Oh boy,
but they all do in Cleveland. They come in, they say the right things, and we start ordering Super Bowl sweatshirts.
Oh, I've seen it happen.
But here's a guy that I'm really excited to have him on. A, he's one of the hardest working guys in the business. B, he's one of the best dressed guys in the business. I don't think I've ever seen him without a suit and tie on. That's why I can't wait to see if Howard Eskin is wearing a suit and tie. I hope he's not, because it's not. All right, good. That's okay. Howard, you fit in better here without a suit and tie. But I've never seen you without one.
I change up the colors each week. I match my headphones with my tie and with my Vans, and tie it in with the suit. So that's a surprise. That's a surprise for Sunday, but it's rare that I don't wear a suit. But it's raining here in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and
that's a little bit of an issue. And I've just stepped out of practice because the Eagles are getting ready today for their game on Saturday, in which they will beat the Giants. So I'm getting ready for all that. Did I hear a yeah? Did I hear just a yeah?
I agree.
How about a hell yeah?
I agree with you.
Can I get a hell yeah?
I don't.
Hell no.
My only concern with Philly is Jalen Hurts healthy?
Yeah, that's true.
As long as he's healthy, I don't see any reason why the Giants would win the game.
Okay, I'm going to steal a word from a quarterback that looked like he was done this year. RELAX. He is fine. Full practice. He's going to be fine. He'll probably have at least 90% of the plays in the arsenal that the coaches will give him. So it'll be okay. Just relax. He's going to be fine.
It's Philly. They all have PTSD. All of them there, just like Browns fans.
Even though they've won a Super Bowl recently, they shouldn't feel that way.
Speaking of that, you did it with a defensive coordinator that is now ours. Give us the lowdown. Give us the 411. We know a little bit about Jim. He started his career here as an unpaid intern under Bill Belichick. He's obviously had a long and successful journey in the NFL. What are we getting? Who are we getting?
You're getting a bright defensive mind. And I didn't see the news conference, but just from what you said, he usually has a lot of anecdotes. He throws in a few stories.
Oh, yeah. He did.
He's that kind of guy. And he's fun to listen to at news conferences. Now, he better be fun on the football field because I'm rooting for Kevin Stefanski. I really like Kevin. I've known Kevin since high school, believe it or not.
Wow.
So, because his dad was the general manager at one time of the 76ers. Yep. So I met him. Actually, I saw his dad play basketball at Penn. That kind of dates me a little bit. But I root for Kevin. Just a little bit, just a tiny bit. It just means I have more knowledge. I can give you my baseball knowledge. They're kind of screwing the game up. I heard you guys talking, but we'll stay on Jim Schwartz. They really are screwing the game up. Good for 100 years, and now they got to play with it. But I think Jim Schwartz will do a good job. I'm still not excited about what happened there, as a lot of people, I'm sure, in Cleveland are. And, Kevin Stefanski knows, and I saw him at the owners' meetings, you got to have a quarterback. So they take the chance on Watson, which I wasn't a big fan of, and the owner kind of screwed it up for everybody else with guaranteeing all his money. But if they have good defense, will put the quarterback in short fields, which is what San Francisco has done for Purdy. They're like fourth or fifth in the league in the shortest fields for a quarterback. So I think Jim Schwartz will really do a good job in that regard. Now, I don't know if he has all the players that he wants, because he obviously has his own style. But you got a good guy, and you got a fun guy. A little strange at times, but I like Jim. I saw him. Who was he with? Tennessee when they came in. Was he with an advisor for Tennessee? I think it was.
Last 2 years, I believe.
Okay. So I saw him this year and talked with him a little bit before the game. I like Jim, and I think he'll do a good job. And he's a little different, but that's okay, because obviously
different
what the brand he's had. Different in terms of the way he approaches. He'll do things on defense that some people now, if the fans in Cleveland are anything like the fans in Philadelphia, they'll be bitching all the time. So because he'll do it differently, he likes the wide 9 at times, all that stuff. It's about getting to the quarterback and putting pressure, and he'll find different ways to do that. But he's got to have the personnel to do it too. But I like Jim, and I like what he should bring to the Browns defense. Which, if that's the case, it's going to make them a better team.
Howard, we're gonna go on for a second. We're gonna ask you to log out and then log back in. There's a little bit of audio difficulty that hopefully we can clean up. So if you would, go ahead and hang up, dial back in. And while he does that, guys, I'll ask you. He's talked about the stories that he told at the news conference.
Yeah, you're right.
He does seem to be a fun guy. This was my takeaway from the news conference. I guess this should be the case because he's been a head coach. But I felt like I was watching a news conference to announce a new head coach.
Yeah, I mean,
he was so authoritative. He was
he's
so
been around for 20, 30 years.
And I just wonder.
And he was a head coach.
Right,
I actually think
but
that's
he
great.
really operates like a head coach. And all I could think of in the moment was, this is exactly who we need. Yeah. I want a guy that comes in with that swagger. He's just very confident in his delivery. He's very relaxed. I thought Kevin seemed to be genuinely thrilled to have him on the staff. And I believe, now I know that, I joked in the group text the other day, I said Cleveland is the Indian word for eternal hope. It's like, this is what we do. No matter who they name, we're going to find the good stuff and be like, hey, this team could be going to the Super Bowl.
Right.
And I hate to fall into that trap, but I really think they did as well with this hire as they could have.
I think they got the number one choice. And I wasn't sure that was going to happen going into the process because Kevin is on the hot seat. And you wonder if anyone would want to hitch their wagon to someone who could get blown out 8 months, 9 months, 10 months from now. And the fact that they got their number one choice, and I do think he was their number one choice, that's a win. Now let's see what happens in August and September.
I like the fact that he, talks in the press conference as if he's a head coach. Because like it or not, as we've talked about on this team, he's going to be the head coach of the defense. Yes. He's going to completely have autonomy when it comes to the defense. He mentioned Kevin Stefanski's the head coach, and he'll have say on some of the assistant coaches, but why would Kevin Stefanski get in his way? Right. Anybody he wants to hire, he's going to be able to hire. Let's bring Howard back in. Howard, I'm curious, when it comes to Jim Schwartz, you talked about him being different. You talked about being a nice guy. One of the complaints a lot of us had with Joe Woods, the previous DC, is that it felt like there was no energy, there was no hard ass at all, there was no fight. He seemed very passive. And Kevin Stefanski's that kind of coach. He's not a rah-rah yeller. Is Jim Schwartz the guy who's going to go to Myles Garrett and really get the best out of him and be a bit of an ass kicker, or no?
It's hard in today's world, because you don't want players to quit on you.
That's true.
So it's really kind of different. You got to jump on them, but you got to be real selective when you do that. You really got to be selective when you do that. And that's what, he'll get into him. I mean, Jim's a tough guy, but ultimately the player knows what he has to do, and Jim tries to tell him, and they got to buy into what he wants to do. And if they buy in, he will be able to coach them up to be a better defensive team. Myles Garrett should be a good player. I don't care who he plays for. Sure. But you got to get the other guys to play well, and you got to get pressure from the other guys. You got to have 4 down linemen. I'm trying to remember the defensive coordinator the Eagles have now, Jonathan Gannon, doesn't like to blitz a lot, and he can get pressure from his 4 down linemen. I don't remember Jim blitzing a lot either. So the fans want, you got to blitz, you got to blitz, you got to blitz. No, you don't have to blitz if you can get pressure other ways and put more people in coverage. And that's really what it comes down to. You want turnovers, and pressure creates turnovers, but it puts less people out in the secondary and in coverage, or whether it's a linebacker or a defensive back, puts less people out there to get the turnovers, but you want to get the pressure from the down 4. And if I remember correctly, I think Jim tries to do that a lot too.
Yeah, no, you're right. The Browns have struggled. The Browns' defensive tackles stink, or at least they have stunk. Maybe it's coaching and they'll be better. Everywhere Jim Schwartz has been, including in Philadelphia, he's always had excellent play from his defensive tackles. Is he been lucky and had those great players? Is it that he's brought the best out of him? Is it a combination of the two? What do you think?
I think in Jim's case, it's a combination. He didn't always have the best players. The Eagles have probably the best group and depth-wise of defensive linemen now than they've ever had. That I can, well, I shouldn't say yet. Yeah, maybe in a long time, even the Super Bowl year of 2017. But the reality is, can coach him up. They got to listen to him. If they listen to him, I think they'll be fine, and the Browns will be better. They better be better, because I don't want to see Kevin Stefanski lose his job.
Right.
So it really, and the quarterback's got to be better. So it's not just defense, but I think Jim will help in that regard. And I don't know if, and the good thing is, I don't know if Jim wants to be a head coach again. I'm not sure of that. When he was here with the Eagles, there was a point, I think he wanted to be the head coach. And at times, I don't know if that was a comfortable situation for Doug Peterson, but I don't know that really is his vision anymore. Right. But we'll do a good job. And I think the Browns will be, if they're not better defensively, I'll buy everybody a cheesesteak.
Pat's or Geno's? Which one we go? Where we going?
Well, I like Geno's, actually. But, Adam, it doesn't look like you need a cheesesteak, because although I think since the last time I saw you, you've lost about 3 ounces. So that's
now,
pretty
listen,
good.
I could always use a cheesesteak, Howard. I don't care, I'm down. You want it, especially if it's free. If you're treating, I'm in.
Yeah, free's our favorite.
Hey, if it ain't
that's
for
our favorite
free,
word.
it ain't for me.
That's right. That's right.
If it ain't for free, it ain't for me.
That's
Remember
right.
that.
Yes.
Is this Eagles team going to go all the way?
They're going to beat the Giants. Because they play at home, I think they have a good chance to beat San Francisco. Could be tough. That defense really is what wins them games and gives them field position, and Purdy's done a nice job. I think they have a chance to get to the Super Bowl. City or Buffalo are better, but that doesn't mean the best team. The Eagles were the underdogs in the Super Bowl against Patriots and Bill Belichick. So, and they won that game too. Well, you noticed that little reference there. Huh?
Yeah, Howard, how could we miss it?
Hey, we could very well have a Cavs-Sixers first-round series in the playoffs. What do you think of that matchup?
I'm not a fan of the Sixers in the playoffs. Anybody that plays a little bit of defense can figure out what to do against the Sixers. I like the Cavs. Cavs done a nice job, a really nice job. The home court, I don't know that makes that much of a difference, because it didn't in this case the last how many years when they get knocked out in the second round. I wouldn't mind seeing that, and I would lean towards the Cavs.
Wow.
I think Father Time is now come into the room with James Harden. I don't care what his numbers say. I'm not a James Harden fan. Be a terrific player, but he cares about his points more than he cares about a lot of other things, and I'm a little disappointed in that. He's a really good player, but this team I don't think they're a championship team or a championship caliber team. So I would lean towards the Cavs. It would be an interesting series, but I would lean toward the Cavs.
Last thing before we get to
go ahead.
Steve, last thing, I'll throw a baseball thing at you. Obviously, the Phillies had that great run last year. My man Kyle Schwarber, one of my favorite players, was awesome for them. The division's tough as hell, though. The Mets obviously added a lot. The Braves are never out of it. The rest of the other two stink. But I mean, it might be the Dodgers did nothing this offseason. I know the Padres did, but you could argue that the Phillies, Braves, and Mets might be the 3 best teams in the National League. How do you like their chances this season in the division?
I still wouldn't sleep on the Dodgers, but I think the Mets are the best team. The Phillies might be the second best team. You got to remember, and the Phillies did a lot. Dave Dombrowski did a lot to improve the Phillies team. Yep. And they needed to improve, because reality, if they didn't, they were 15-3 against Washington and basically 500 against the rest of baseball. Yeah. And that dope of a manager in St. Louis gave them that first game, which gave them. What a dope he is. how he mismanaged that game. I always contend that managers don't win games; they usually lose games, and he lost that game. But give the Phillies credit. After that, they picked up. They got on the horse and they rode it right to the World Series. Houston was clearly the better team,
Yep.
but the Phillies have done a lot to improve. I like Schwarber, but I want to see, and I saw Rob Thompson yesterday. The Phillies may have had an availability. I went from the Eagles to the Phillies because they're kind of across the street here. And I asked him if Schwarber has lobbied to be the leadoff hitter yet because Trey Turner is here.
Yeah.
He says, no, he hasn't said anything. He's a team guy. Schwar because the manager is a Canadian guy, it's always hockey references. So Schwarbs, as he likes to call him, is a team guy. Well, I think he wants to lead off. I mean, he's not going to hit 46 home runs again. The only problem, and this analytics has screwed up baseball. How can you have a leadoff hitter that hits 218? I don't get it. I just don't get it. I hit home runs and he walked. I don't care. The leadoff hitter, I don't want a walk doesn't drive in a run unless the bases are loaded. And all this nonsense with the rules, leave the shift in. You guys are talented enough. Hit it the other way.
Yeah, that's what
hit it where as the old saying in baseball, hit it where they ain't.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
That's a lost art.
Enlarging the bases. It's just, here's my idea for baseball. If they're gonna slop it up with all this nonsense, why don't you put a clown's mouth in the outfield, in the stands?
I love
and
it.
if you hit the ball as a home run through the clown's mouth, you get 2 runs rather than 1. Why don't they do that? Just
If
move
it's
the
going to be a
clown's
clown
mouth
show,
around.
go all in. I see what you're saying. Howard Eskin, it's always fun to talk to you.
We got to ask about Steve Becker.
Yeah, we got to ask about Steve Becker. Your once upon a time high school intern is now our executive producer. How the hell did that happen?
You know what? Hey, listen, a broken clock's right twice a day. So remember that. This is what I'll say about Steve. On a good note, I wouldn't do this if it wasn't for Steve. Because, my station, which is WIP on radio, it's Fox here in Philadelphia on TV, but they don't like me to do stuff for things out of the company. But I said to hell with that because I respect the guy that works hard. And I've had a lot of interns that have moved forward and made success out of the business that they want to be in. They've been successful. And Steven was a hard worker, a good kid. I guess he's not a kid anymore. But is he still a dope? Is he still a dope, or is he?
No, he's left that trait on the side. But he's a hard worker. He's a hard worker.
That clip's going to lead our best of 2023.
Oh, my God.
Montage.
Steve,
Thank
are
you,
you
Howard.
still a dope? Now, did you call him dope when he was your intern?
I let it go because I didn't want to shatter his. But I can call him a dope now because at least he's got a job in the business. So that's good. But no, I like Steven, and he is a hard worker. I guess maybe 50% of the time he's a dope, but that's all right. He just fits in with the fans of Philadelphia. That's all. I mean, it's all good.
Howard, great catching up with you. Appreciate it.
See.
Okay, when you see me on the game on Sunday.
Dope, so.
What's that, Howard?
Well, Sunday you'll see me in a suit, so I won't disappoint you.
All right, I had no doubt that we would.
Or
Howard
Saturday.
Eskin from
game's on Saturday. Yes.
WIP in Philadelphia. You'll probably still be in a suit on Sunday.